obviously you're executing it so well, or else I wouldn't have had you on the show, to be honest. So,
Oh, thank you. Appreciate
of
it. Yeah.
course,
The dude was eaten by a bear.
this is my make it or break it moment.
Damn. Yeah, you stole it from me, dude. That's the perfect one. Yeah, just imagine gnashing your teeth.
It's either gonna go well or I'm gonna look like a fucking idiot.
You can make cilantro, you can make ice cream. Like it's so sick.
Take your shirt off, twist it around your hand.
That is such a fire question though.
If I didn't find inspiration behind you and your project, we couldn't be having these conversations.
Not everybody has like existential nightmares like I do.
Welcome to Unshut, a place where if at any point you feel like you need to shut the up, don't.
What's up, dude? Sorry, I'm checking my making sure my mic's working. It's sometimes a little dodgy, so can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You're good.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, thanks for having me, Mo. My name's Walker. Nice to meet you. I don't know if Nate relayed that to you, but yeah, really appreciate you having me on.
No, dude, thank you. I'm so glad to be able to catch you like during the holiday season and be able to do this.
Oh yeah, totally. I've been fighting a little bug like the last 3 days, so if you have to edit around my coughs, I apologize in advance. But yeah, this is like a real throwback to COVID, dude. You know, this is about like I'm actually sick, doing something over the webcam, everything like that. So it feels somewhat familiar at least. I've trained for it, so.
Exactly. No, I mean, so far you sound good. It sounds clear, but it's funny. That was me about 2 weeks ago trying to get through some recordings, sick as fuck. So I totally get it.
Oh, dude, and like I still haven't figured out what it is. Like, so like my girlfriend is 2 days behind me in symptoms. So like I got her sick, but she got tested for COVID and the flu. Neither showed up positive. And so I'm like, what the hell even is this? It's probably that new bird flu thing that they're talking about now. They just shut down like the Californians in like a state of emergency right now. I don't know, but I'm champing it, dude. I'm beating it.
Well, listen, I've been living in a fucking bubble because I had no idea, but I'm gonna pray that it's not that.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, hey, you beat it apparently, 2 weeks ago. So, if it was that, I mean, it had no match. So,
Absolutely. Well, you kind of beat me to my first question because I wasn't really sure if you were still based out in California or if you were back in Nashville or anything, but are you officially like permanently in LA? Is that where you're at?
no, I've actually never lived in LA. I'm in Nashville and I grew up in North Carolina. But yeah, I've been in Nashville for like 10 years at this point.
Gotcha. So no living in LA. I must have just gotten that
Nah.
wrong.
No, we did some press out there too, so I could see that like getting like tangled up to some degree. But no, I've never lived there. I've been there for like a couple weeks at a time. Beautiful spot, but yeah, no, I'm in Nashville.
Amazing. Well, listen, we're about to break the ice in a way that I can make you forget that you're sick and we can shake off the illness.
Oh, totally. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm still in pretty good spirits regardless. So.
No, no, for sure. It's funny because I planned on asking you, if I wasn't mistaken, that you were originally from North Carolina, but it's funny because that is how we're going to break the ice today, Walker. I'm
All
going
right.
to sing a song to you. I want to
Okay.
see, and just keep in mind, yeah, you should get a little nervous because I'm an awful singer, but I'm curious if you are going to know this song. So it's either going to go well or I'm going to look like a fucking idiot, okay?
Hey, go for it. Go for it.
So I'll go first and I'll see if you can finish the lyric. Are you ready?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Amazing. And hopefully my voice doesn't crack because it cracks all the time.
No, no sweat. No, I'm excited to hear it.
All right, so here we go. North Carolina, come on and race up. Take your shirt off, twist it around your hand.
Like a helicopter.
Fuck yeah.
Yes, dude. It's funny. That's like that like called back to like it's funny like my brain just had like a synapse fire on that or whatever. I still couldn't even tell you the name of that song, but yeah, I know that lyric very well.
That literally just made my entire day.
What song is that?
It's Race Up by Petey Pablo.
Petey Pablo. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. Like a
And
helicopter. Yeah, yeah. I remember that shit.
yes.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, dude, it has been like a fucking dream of mine to use this song somehow on the show. He's obviously not a very easy man to get in touch with. And I've been dying to be like, I wonder if anyone else remembers this song. Like, I can't be the only one that remembers this song. So going into this, I was so nervous. I'm like, this is my make it or break it moment.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of like what era that was too. I mean, I'm 28, so like I don't know like when that song like had its like big moment or whatever. Because like I mean, by the time I was in high school, I had access to every song ever. So like through like Spotify playlists or like your friends or whatever, they'd show that to you. But like I don't know, I never heard it on radio or anything like that. So I wonder like when it was like at its biggest moment. But yeah, it's definitely like a cult classic. So
It is. So thank you so much for not making me look like an idiot for sure.
yeah, no sweat.
Well, and I think a lot of people are not going to be so surprised that you knew that song because it's how we're going to segue into the first question about about just the variety of music that you put out. I've been curious to ask you this. How early on in your life did you realize, whoa, that's a big jump of a genre of music that's on my playlist that I'm shuffling?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like I was just like still a product of the internet to some degree, so like I always needed to be like excited by like different kinds of ideas and stuff. Like I remember like very early on, like I heard like Thriller by Michael Jackson like when I was like 4 or 5, and then that blew my mind. And then I listened to Into Club by 50 Cent when I was like in second grade. That blew my mind. And then like Metallica and like my metal phase came in shortly after that, and then back to rap again. Like I don't know, like I feel like I've always just kind of had like a open mind when it comes to just like music in general. Like if it had a nice bounce to it or like the melody was cool, like it didn't really matter what the backdrop was. And I don't know, it's like the musicianship in general too. And like even like producers is sometimes like hip hop shit is like very simple, but like it's those nuanced choices that they make with like 4 or 5 elements that make it pretty cool. So I mean, I don't know. I feel like I've probably always just kind of had that bug and just really enjoy listening to a bunch of different things.
No, for sure. Do you remember like what artist or style shocked you the most that you were like, what is this? And you like went down the rabbit hole and absolutely loved it? Because I mean, you've talked about like heavy metal, rap, pop, punk, all of it. And obviously you're executing it so well, or else I wouldn't have had you on the show, to be honest. So,
Oh, thank you, appreciate
of
it. Yeah.
course. So, like, do you remember what was the first like off the wall genre or artist that you were like, huh, that's different, but I'm into it?
I mean, definitely the first time hearing like Thriller was certainly that, but like I had no frame of reference, but that's it's just so immaculately crafted, like that whole album too. But I had just heard the song at the time, and then I'm trying to think of like other moments in my life. Like I remember hearing Acid Rap for the first time by Chance the Rapper. That was like pretty interesting, and Because the Internet by Childish Gambino, I thought was like a very unique project as well. Like I'd never heard a rap project that like spanned through all these different genres and stuff, which honestly I bet is a cornerstone of like my influences a lot is that project. That was like a very formative thing for me. Metal and stuff as well. Like I remember like I went to go to a Metallica concert with my dad, and this band called Lamb of God was opening up for them. They're a massive metal band as well too. I'd never heard like screamo vocals before, and it was honestly kind of scary at first, but then it started like kind of growing on me, and like my dad was like, this shit is like too scary. Like, like it's like it freaked him out. And like most people, like, they call it like devil music or whatever, but there was something about it that just like I really like the breakdowns and like the heavy, like just like vocals and stuff. It's something that just scratched an itch that like I didn't really know. And I think metal and EDM have a lot of parallels too, like especially like the harder style type shit, like some early Skrillex stuff and even some of his newer stuff as well. Like something about like that tension and release, and like you'll have like a little moment for a second, then it drops in. Like I mean that to me is like just super cool. And so I'd probably say like that was another moment as well. So yeah, Because the Internet, Lamb of God, and then oh yeah, and like Pantera as well would probably be in that group. And then hearing Thriller, and I'm trying to think if there's like anybody else that just like totally shocked me. I mean, a lot of like alternative rap in the 2010s, like the production was very forward thinking, like just in general. Like I'd never really heard beats that like any instrumentation for that matter that sounded the way that did. Like ASAP Rocky's first couple of projects, Kendrick's like Good Kid, Mad City, and To Pimp a Butterfly as well, which like kind of like started tuning my ear towards like the jazzier stuff as well. I think that was like kind of like my break into that. Like Mac Miller as well, like the Faces era, watching movies, Macadelic, all the way up until Good AM. Like those 4 projects to me are like very like there's just nothing else that sounds like it. Alt J is another great example too of a band that like I had never heard anything like it. And honestly, I was repulsed by it at first, but my friend was like, dude, trust me, just keep listening, let it grow on you. And like, yeah, he was right. Like I love Alt J, and like I kind of like bands like that like you sometimes maybe on your first impression won't really get, but then like over time, like you give it a chance. And like I don't know if a lot of people listen to music that way these days, but like it is kind of fun to like kind of take in an artist and like understand their catalog and stuff. And I feel like that's like something really cool about artistry that's kind of lost now in the Spotify days because it's all single driven and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. no, but yeah, long answer to your question there.
No, you're totally good. Since I started doing research on you, I've been so impressed by the variety of knowledge that you have when it comes to music, because I do think that one of the biggest stigmas in the industry is that you can only be one genre driven in the industry. And I think that it's so important. Not everyone can do it, but I think that it is very important to have artists like you who are just, listen, whether it sucks or not, I'm going to do it anyway. And eventually something will stick, but I'm still going to dabble into exactly it is what I like to listen to. And I think that's so genius in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like experimenting with like different sounds and stuff. If I listen to a ton of different things, then I have all those as influences as well. So it's like if inevitably they're all going to kind of trickle in certain ways. And yeah, I mean, some people don't like certain songs, and people then also love those other songs that those other fans don't like. Like I mean, I've ran into a fan in New York that was like, your only good song is Chicken, and I was like, well, I disagree. That's probably one of my least favorites, but it is my most popular. So I mean, maybe I'm wrong, honestly, at the end of the day. But I know there's like a lot of people out there that just like that straight ahead, like indie pop, indie rock type of thing. And like I like that type of music too to some degree, but it's like it doesn't really call out to me as much as like some of my other influences, at least at like this present time in my life. But some of the newer stuff actually that we're working on is kind of more of a return to form in that type of stuff, like post this album that's coming out. But there's still kind of like everything that we've learned so far, kind of like, putting songs out throughout our current discography. It's going to still sound a little different, but I think it'll still hopefully scratch that itch for the fans that have been waiting, like, I don't know, 6 years since, Chicken came out. And that's the thing too, like I made it 6 years ago. It's not me anymore. I've changed. So I hope I can make captivating stuff, regardless of what type of genre it is. But I don't know, sometimes people just like good playlist fodder too, and there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like my music like has like it commands your attention, and it makes it very like polarizing to some degree, whereas like sometimes you just want some music to like listen to in your car or like to sleep or whatever, and like meanwhile my music, I'm like screaming at you at a random moment, or there's like a dubstep breakdown like out of left field, and you're just like, what the fuck, dude.
I've realized something sitting here listening to this. The quality is surprisingly good.
Oh wait, can I curse on here? Sorry, I didn't know if I could or couldn't.
Absolutely.
All right, cool, 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 cool. Yeah, I didn't want to make you have to censor all my shit because it's just kind of part of my vernacular or whatever. But
No, you're totally good. And I think it's actually hilarious that you talked about, listening to it in your car, because that's actually literally like on the dot is my next question for you, because I saw a comment that someone left on. It was a random YouTube video. I wish I could recall it, but I don't. But someone wrote, man, I love listening to his music in the car when I'm driving, talking about your music. But that prompted me to ask you, given the fact that you have this variety palette of genres and artists, if Walker could today on record say what one artist he would listen to and loop, let's say LA to New York, who are you playing on loop?
all right, well, if it's gonna be front to back, like that same thing, like the whole time, I'd probably try to find an artist that has like a pretty extensive catalog that like it ranges from a bunch of different things. Like it'd be like artists that kind of like have like reinvented themselves over like each album. Like Tyler the Creator is a good option, I think. Like he's done so much, like especially like early, like that kind of shock rap Eminem type shit, and then he's like moved into just this like super melodic, like very beautiful chord arrangements and stuff. And like it's cool to see his progression too, because like you can hear all of those things in those earlier albums still more or less like in the newer stuff too, but it's just like totally different wallpaper, but you can hear kind of the stuff that he was like kind of working towards. And so like Tyler the Creator I think would be a solid option. Radiohead is a great option too. Like I feel like they have just such an expansive catalog as well, because like I could see myself, if I had to do a cross country road trip and I was only allowed to listen to like one artist, if they only had 3 albums, it would be a brutal type of thing. It takes like 45 hours to get across the country, so it's like, yeah, you gotta like, hopefully they have at least 12 hours or 13 hours worth of music. I think that could be something pretty solid. And I'm trying to think of anyone else. Like I love like Frank Ocean's shit, but he only has like 2-3 albums if you count Endless, which doesn't, it's not even really on streaming. I have a rip of it on my computer though. I bump it every once in a while. But I'm trying to think of anyone else that has like a super extensive catalog. I would probably say like, yeah, Radiohead or Tyler the Creator, or yeah, anybody that's got like a long, diverse catalog probably.
Perfect. Well, I do have to go ahead and just give you a fair warning, dude. It's only going to get more fucking random moving forward straightforward with questions, okay?
I
So
love random. Like it makes it way more interesting. You like, what's this song? Is this cool? Like like you get the typical questions all the time. So anything out of left field, it makes it pretty fun for me. So yeah, no sweat.
absolutely. And yes, like we'll totally honor some of your older songs as well, but we just like to do things a little bit different here. I'm super excited to talk about just all the different types of music, but keeping it random with you because of your knowledge. But I wanted to, before we kind of shoot the shit a little bit more, I want to get this almost like, I guess not super serious, but just this question that, popped into my head as I was doing research about you. Something I journaled, I wrote, you continue to rise as this blended artist. How do you deal with the pressure of some expecting you to nail every single genre you dabble in?
Well, I mean, it's kind of still up to my discretion at the end of the day to like if I try something. Like, I mean, there's so many songs that we've made that will never see the light of day, and like I think it's kind of up to me to like experiment and if I think it's cool then I'll put it out, and if it's not well received I don't really care at the end of the day, just because like I'm always making music, so if you don't like that I'll make another one. Like this gap between our last single and now this album coming out like is so long. Like we put out Memo out in 2023 like in the summer, and now like our first single I think for this album came out in like September of 24, and I was just like, for me that's too long. Like I like having like so much music just like on regular rotation. Like when a song comes out I've already got another one in the bank, so like I'm not really too like obsessed with like having misses in the catalog or whatever, just because like I don't know, like I feel like people remember your wins way more than they remember your losses anyway. So it's like you're just added to the fodder of all the 30-40,000 Spotify songs that get uploaded daily. Like that's the consequence, I guess. Like, or you disappoint a fan that wasn't their favorite, and then well, what about this one next month or whatever. So that's probably my mentality on it the most. And like I don't know, I don't put that much pressure on myself these days, just because like when it comes to like making money and stuff too, like I'll find a way to make money even if it's not in music. So like I'm not gonna let that like adulterate like what I'm creating.
Dude, I love to hear that so much because so I'm a retired choreographer. I've owned a couple of businesses, but I'm doing this full time. But it's such a funny, interesting thing that you said because it's something I was just talking about earlier this week. I'm like, when it came to taking the pressure off of the show, it's exactly when things started to pivot for me and started to kind of like gain streams and attention on Spotify. But what's so funny is that was literally my mentality. I was like, I know how to make money. Like, especially coming from, I was an immigrant kid who didn't know any English and I was selling food on the streets. I was poor as fuck. I'm like, making money is the least of my fucking worries. But I think when you remind yourself of what you are capable of doing and what you're capable of turning something from absolutely nothing, it does help with taking the pressure off 1000%.
Well, yeah, keeping like the idea of the process of like putting, making money and whatever it is that you try to like figure out. Like, I mean, like there's so many options these days, especially too. Like, I mean, you can go on there's this website called Coursera where you can like hop on and like learn coding. And then like, in 3 months you have like a Google certificate that like most places will hire you on. And so then it's like, all right, cool. Like now I have that if I need to make money or whatever. But it's like, I don't know, like when it comes to making music in general, like I feel like plenty of artists are suffering from like this like chasing whatever the trend is or whatever. And like, there's certain things to pay attention to for sure. Cause like, it also like kind of informs the music to some degree. But like when it stops sounding like yourself, it just doesn't really like bring you the gratification that it once did. And like that's the last thing I want. Cause like there's still like my purpose in, life has seemed to like always just revolve around music to some degree. And so like I'd hate to just like pivot just for the sake of, hopefully getting like a label deal or whatever. Cause like, if I made 40 more songs that sounded like chicken or whatever, like also the other thing is too, is like maybe that, formula does work and I just need to do it more often. But also too, like if you try to chase that same thing, sometimes it sounds like even worse. And like you just sound like a parody of yourself. So I don't know. I just kind of follow what seems to be cool to me at the moment and, just kind of go from there. But yeah, it seems like a better mentality.
No, for sure. And I think that is what creates the biggest success stories anyway, because it's going against the current, right? You're not doing what's pleasing everyone else. So I think it's so corny to always say like, oh, show up authentically you, but there is so much power in that because when you go against the current, you do get the best results, in my opinion.
No question. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I see what you're going to say something else. I could just ramble about nothing forever. So,
No, 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 no. You're totally good. No, it's funny because, now that I'm also kind of getting to talk to you a little bit more, I'm also seeing that you are very witty and quick on your toes, which makes this so much easier for me because sometimes I'll get some artists that they get so nervous. They're like, oh my God, gosh, like, the premise of the show is asking you questions you haven't been asked on record before. And
Uh,
a lot of times that's so intimidating for artists who do a lot of media training.
oh yeah.
But when it comes to that, I'm going to give you some genres real quick or a style of music. And I want to just get into your creative brain a little bit. Don't overthink it, just whatever comes to mind first. It could be what you would do for a song or what you would do. The first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds fun.
All right, so the first one I have for you is orchestra. What's the first thing that pops into your mind? What would Walker do with orchestra music?
I would probably chase like kind of like a four on the floor type of like Dua Lipa thing with like a strings thing or like maybe like Jamiroquai type beat. Like a lot of future nostalgia that Dua Lipa project, especially like Don't Start Now, gave me a lot of those like Jamiroquai type of vibes. So I feel like I try to chase something like that. Either that or some massive like intro with like a big score, like some Hans Zimmer type shit. So
Hell yeah, absolutely. The next one I have is, and I struggle with this word, so I have to like read it. I actually even spell it out phonetically just so I don't fuck it up. But the next one I have is opera.
I mean, it probably wouldn't be a song that I would like be like the main vocal on, but like I've always thought it'd be like really cool to have like these like really grandiose like hip hop tracks that have these like really. I mean, I'm sure there's songs that have already done this too, but I think like something like with some heavy hitting like 808 type of stuff and like having like the opera as like the top line over it, because like with hip hop you don't get a lot of elements. It clouds up everything too much. Like the vocals the most important part, but yeah, like either that or like a metal song, like opera and metal. I feel like go really well together. Like some like Doom Eternal soundtrack shit with like some heavy like 8 string guitar stuff. Like maybe that could work as well.
Oh, hell yeah. The next one I have for you is, and this one I did specifically journal on here, if you were to do ask the actual vocalist on it, but I'm just curious if Walker were to create a song, and maybe not even just for you, but if you were to demo it yourself to give it to another artist, right? What would you do with a song in Spanish?
So if somebody gave me a song that was in Spanish.
Or just like anything, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear like, your neighbors, they're about to put out a song in Spanish? What can we expect for it to sound like?
Oh, nice. Okay. I feel like I would have to first get like my tongue like privy to that. Like it's very difficult for me to like roll like my tongue and shit. And so like I would figure out phrases that like I could say that like made a lot of sense. I actually have worked on a reggaeton song that wound up not coming out. It was with these two dudes. They were like, yo, I love your voice. It sounds like Justin Bieber or whatever. And I was like, dude, thanks. I appreciate it. And so, like, I sang a little hook over top of it. And so, like, I feel like it would be kind of like, I'd need a feature for sure. Like, somebody, like, with, like, some Bad Bunny type vocals as well. Like, it's, like, very, like, the hip hop driven stuff. And then, like, I'd come in for the hook. And, like, it'd probably be some Spanglish, like, like a mix of English and Spanish, like, kind of, like, blurring the line. Like Despacito. But, like, more, like, probably heavier hitting. Like, it's, like, really, like, some of that aggressive, like, hip hop shit too. So like I feel like that could be like a cool field. Like I've heard Bad Bunny do a few things like that. I'm trying to think of like what songs off the top of my head. That's a problem too. I'm so fucking white. I can't pronounce any of them. Like I feel like I'm just like I actually, this is like a funny anecdote. When I was in like 8th grade, I remember we had like pronounce like certain shit in Spanish class, and I was saying like it's hace calor, right?
Yes.
And so like I was like like I said it so country white boy that like there was a couple dudes in the class that the rest of the year they called me Hase Kalor because I just fucked it up that bad. And so like that just goes to show. I don't think my tongue's gotten any better since then either. But like it's just I can't deliver it that well, so I'd probably have to train a little bit and like try to get that sounding right. But that's probably what it would sound like to some degree.
Dude, so fucking perfect. And I'm just dying on the inside because it's just a huge coincidence about like something you said, which I'm going to bring up a little bit later. It aligns with something I have for you at the end. And I'm just kind of like dying on the inside because, I always preach about this on episodes. Artists and I do not prep before going into this. So it's just the coincidence are just mad funny to me sometimes, but we'll save that for later.
Brilliant.
You've talked about loving music in film. This was a clip I saw on your Instagram, and this prompted me to ask you if your neighbor's music were to inspire a film,
Yeah.
what film are you inspiring? What genre or anything like that?
If our influence, I would say like especially this new album that's about to come out, I think is very like A24 in a way, just like in general, like across the board. I mean, I had just seen like Beau's Afraid, which is one of my favorite movies, very polarizing. And that's the thing with like, I guess art in general for me too is like if it brings a reaction where somebody absolutely hates it or absolutely loves it, or somewhere in the middle as well, like that to me is like a good work of art to me to some degree. And so like I would say I would hope to inspire that type of vibe, like the visuals and stuff like that with this new album in particular. You know, there's like a lot of things that we're hitting in these newer songs that are like post album that are more like nostalgia driven and stuff, like, you know, kind of like older looking vintage things. And I think, you know, that's definitely something that like I guess more or less is trying to influence those theoretically. So
Well, I think you nailed it with the whole, very visual music because it's the reason why I wanted to ask you that. Because even just like the first three tracks off of this new project that's coming out next year, it's very visual to me. And I'm like, well, he loves music and film, and yet his music is very visual. And even just one song alone, which we'll talk again a little bit later, you can really just close your eyes and see an entire like film with it. It's just crazy. Even if you were to strip the fucking vocals, sonically, it just sent me for like this loop of like, fuck, I wonder what movie he could create off of this.
oh yeah, like dude, I wish I had like the funding and backing to be able to like really go in on some music videos and stuff. Cause like I basically have like $1 million idea, but with a not $1 million budget, for each of these songs. Like if I could do like something like that, that'd be so sick one day. But yeah, I don't know. If only I could have been a Nepo baby, dude. That would have made shit so much easier. It would have been so much easier, and I would have all my artistic ideas out there. And but that's you gotta earn it, So that's the kind of part of it. But it's cool though that like at least the music as is like evokes that feeling because music videos are incredibly expensive, and like I paid for a few of them and they did great jobs and shit. But like I never saw any money from that. Like the return on investment is so bad. So like I'm just like, you know what, just music, maybe some like artsy reels here and there.
Well, it's definitely going to happen for you. Mark my fucking words on record. It's going to happen. And you know what? That $1 million budget's going to look like shit when you've got a $10 million budget. All right. I'm
Hey,
just
Mo,
saying.
I love the power of positive thinking. I appreciate you saying that.
Absolutely. And just speaking of big budgets, because it is something I do see in your future, is there a song in your catalog that isn't very dark, but you could see someone like Ari Aster reimagining for something absolutely fucking terrifying? Now, I
Dude,
know that's something you haven't been asked before for sure.
that is such a fire question, though. All right, hang on. Let me pop through the discography here real quick. I mean, we had one for Memo. Like we made a music video ourselves, and I could see that song. I guess like it's like no need to be so serious, you're gonna die someday. That's like kind of dark in a way. So like I don't know if that like counts as not that. I wish I could. That's like a obvious example to me though, where I feel like he would make something absolutely ballistic over that, and like it sounds like a 1975 like pop in your face type shit, and then it would just be like people getting murdered or whatever. So like Memo is like an obvious choice, but I'm thinking of something that's like, I mean, we could go into like the deep catalog, like Temporary. I could see. So that's like just a general like love song in general of just like some circumstance breaking two people apart. And I think maybe that could be something if like you think it's some just like, oh, like they moved away, or like whatever the thing was, but then like Ari takes that and is like, well, actually like the dude was eaten by a bear or some shit, and like so like maybe that one would be like even more crazy. And so like I bet Temporary would be that, because that song's not dark at all, but like it is something that would be like could be turned on its head and made very freaky or whatever. So
Dude, hell yeah. Well, it's my favorite part about this show because I always like to make sure that artists are kind of given their place. I like to honor them in a very creatively way because I always do think that, yes, music is great, obviously, but the creative mind is very unique. It's very misunderstood. A lot of people just think, oh my gosh, he created a good song, he put it out, now he's making music. But there's so much more behind it. And so I like to manifest with the artists I have on because this is what you inspire me to do. You inspire me to ask off the wall questions. And if I didn't find inspiration behind you and your project, we couldn't be having these conversations. So,
No, it's pretty sick. Yeah, I like that idea too because there are so many nuances like underneath it all that like even sometimes I'm not even aware of a lot of the time too. Like it's just kind of something that kind of comes from within you and yeah, it's a very strange process that I still don't even fully understand.
oh, for sure. And just talking about, inspiring off the wall questions based off of you, my next one is probably the most random question I'm going to ask you today. While discussing all the styles that you've done, if Walker, which is really funny, we talked about $1 million budgets. I'm telling you, the coincidences sometimes trip me the fuck out. If Walker got a call today and got a $10 million blender deal, yes, an actual blender that you put in a fucking kitchen, okay? Because
Okay.
everyone just uses the word blended when they talk to you all the time in regards to like your musical catalog and then genres that you dabble in. What would you name that blender? What would it be called?
First of all, dude, you've got a very unique mind. Like these are very cool questions. Like I'm kind of shocked for what because like you said, I'm pretty good on my toes, but this is truly testing me to some degree. But it's pretty cool. Is there one already out there called like the mix or something, or like because there's something like musically in that as well too. Like I'm trying to think if there's got to be something more clever than that. But I'm trying to think of like even blender names in general because it's like I remember there was like the Magic Bullet. Like I loved watching that infomercial when I was a kid. Like me and my sister would like get up like really early and like watch it like 5, 6 a.m. and it would just like run on a loop. I don't know if you've ever seen the Magic Bullet infomercial, but it is a classic. And I
No, I know
like
exactly which one you're talking
dude,
about.
it's killer. Like I was like begging my mom, like, Mom, you got it. It's just a blender. I'm like, it's not just a blender. Watch this. This is crazy. You can make cilantro, you can make ice cream. Like it's so sick. But I don't know, like I hate to take the easy way out with the mix, but like I think that's all I can really muster up in my head right now.
No, that's
The
perfect. That's so
mixer.
perfect. The
Well,
mixer.
yeah, the mixer. It's very corny, but when it comes to music or whatever, the branding is right there. So
Exactly. That's exactly what I mean about this. It's why I like to be like, listen, don't overthink it. Whatever comes to your mind first, because it always does align to the foundation you've set for yourself as an artist. And I think it's so clever. In honor of the name Your Neighbors, we're going to make a storyline real quick. We're going to keep this one very short and quick. So don't try to make it very lengthy, just very quick. But I'm going to give you two phrases to remember. Are you ready?
sure, yeah.
You have to start the second word or the second phrase you have to use is my neighbors. The last and final one, you have to remember our neighbors. And basically, what we're going to do is we're going to just tell the most random story that makes no fucking sense. It's going to be quick. It's just 4 lines of a conversation. I'll go first, you'll go second, I'll go third, and then you'll finish it off. Are you ready?
Oh, gotcha. Okay, word. Yeah, let's try it.
Dude, did you notice your neighbors were not picking up their dog shit when they were taking them for a walk?
My neighbors always pick up their dog shit when I'm walking around, at least for what I've noticed.
Well, maybe I must have looked at the wrong ones and maybe it had to have been their neighbors that did it.
No, now that you say it, there were a couple dogs walking around. Does it have to end with our neighbors specifically? Like that
Yeah.
has to be the last one? Shit. Because I was gonna see like I saw somebody not pick up their dog shit. That must have been our neighbors. But
That
I
works. That works.
okay, cool. Damn, yeah, that stretched my brain for a second for sure. But I'm glad we got through it.
No, absolutely. It's so funny because it's what I always like to say too. It's like, don't try to make sense of any of it. It's just whatever comes to mind, okay?
Well, the improv thing is like such a unique talent, like as well. I've worked at a comedy club for like 2.5 years, and like it was like really cool to see like the crowd work of stuff, and like you start to learn how they can like set the crowd up to like kind of get them to say certain things to play off of. It's like they've got a Rolodex of like 40 jokes, but then it's like okay, like I know what's gonna happen if this person says this. Like they can kind of like control the environment, but it still feels like very improv. But there's so many levels to it, like improv classes and stuff like that too. Like makes me think of that scene in Ted where like they're all like trying to come up with ideas like 9/11 and they're like, hey, all right, something more positive or whatever.
Dude,
Yeah.
100%. I promise you, we are going to talk about your new music. Not everything we do is going to be cheesy as fuck, but I do have just one last one. And this one's meant to be like, bro, now you're just being fucking weird, but just roll with it, okay?
Word, let's say it. Yeah.
So, before we talk about your latest, I've pulled some random song titles of yours, and I'm going to name the song, and I want you to give me your best facial expression to that song. I'll go first so you can kind of get the idea. There's only 4 of them, so we don't have to do too many many of them, but basically I'll tell you a song title of yours that I pulled from your catalog, and you just do something with your face that matches that word.
I gotta hit a live emote. I got you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the first one I have is Smacked, and I'll go first.
Perfect. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Either that or like if I actually had to hit myself. Yeah.
The next one I have is Stiff. So this is mine.
Yeah, very like stoic and upset, like not having a good
Exactly.
time. Not having a good time.
Exactly. The next one I have is Princess, and this one's mine.
That is a great one. Yeah, yeah. Like it's like what is it, the one hand under the chin or like a kiss, like a or some shit. Yeah, maybe that is what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The last one I have for you is Rabies, and this one's mine. Rabies.
Damn. Yeah, you stole it from me, dude. That's the perfect one. Yeah, just imagine gnashing your teeth and shit. Yeah, that's definitely it. Like, yeah, that's perfect.
Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Thank you so much for going along with all the random shit we didn't prep for. I appreciate it.
No, it makes it way more fun. Like I'd rather this than just the same questions. You know, it spiced it up quite a bit.
This is why I like having artists on here because your listeners are going to get a different glance of you. And what better way to get your fans continuing to fall more in love with you outside of your music, right? You want to create loyalty, right? So
Exactly, and like also too, like it's just cool to see like other aspects of their life and stuff too. Because like I mean, I don't know, like especially like with like press and stuff like that. Like there's so many different ways you can go about it, but like I don't know, I kind of prefer the more candid approach, and so like it's kind of authentic in a way, and I really like that.
no, for sure. And again, like it's so funny because with everything we just did, we honored the name of the band, we honored your song titles, we did things that were pulled inspiration from your art, your music. So I love it so much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is very cleverly done. Yeah, well crafted.
I appreciate that so much. Coming from a musical genius like you, I'll take it for the win for sure.
Thank you.
Excited about your new project. I journaled something while listening to your music, and I want you to respond to it however you'd like. I just want to see what you get from my journaling while listening to your music. The irony of questioning a higher power never felt more like a religious experience in my life. How do you respond to hearing something like that?
I mean, it is kind of funny because, like, especially like with that outro and like the bridge as well, like it feels like it opens up into something like that to some degree. And so, like, I'm glad that that got captured because, like, I wanted that element to kind of be there to feel like, pseudo religious, like in a way. And yeah, it is kind of funny because it's like especially on the album, like that's like the last glimpse of glimmer of God basically until like the last song. And like, yeah, just after that, it just goes totally off the rails. And so, like, it is kind of funny that you gathered that as well because that is like pretty much just that. So
Well, and I think that's also where I got like the whole musical genius idea because it was very like, man, here you are almost like doing what you're never told to do as a kid. Don't question God. For anyone that grew up in a religious home, right? Don't question, don't doubt it, just have faith. But it's funny because you're doing what we were told not to do as kids, and yet that feels like such a fucking holy experience, you know? I love
well,
it.
yeah. Well, that's the strange thing to me too, is that like I feel like not calling into question some of the things that you think, like I feel like kind of like invalidates like what you actually believe. So like if you don't actually go down the rabbit hole sometimes through that, and like not that everybody has to, but like just the way my brain works and stuff, like if I don't dig down that path like a little bit, like I just don't really know what I'm, praying to at the end of the day. So like and I've gone all over the place like when it comes to religions for me, and I'm just kind of like landed where I am now. But it's like it's an interesting experience trying to find your place in the world in the context of like existentialism and stuff. So like yeah, it's just kind of like cool to kind of hear that got translated well.
No, for sure. And another thing that I loved about your latest music in particular, I felt like you were approaching topics that we were told not to discuss, but also approaching them in a way that I'm like, man, if I would have been 12 years old listening to this music, I would have felt so safe questioning the afterlife, questioning religion. And so I almost feel like you're approaching topics that we wish we could have been approached by in that way when we were so afraid to talk about them, if that makes any fucking sense.
Yeah, totally. Like, there's definitely like an element of art in general. There's this one movie that I saw called Tar. I can't remember. I think Kate Blanchett plays the lead in it. And there's this really interesting scene where she's having a conversation with some like older dude, and he says like the best art presents the question question, but it doesn't give the answer. And I love that mentality on it because like I don't like as an artist like trying to like convince anybody of anything. I like letting people come to their own conclusions and stuff just because like whatever their upbringing was. Like I find it very annoying sometimes when people are just like I'm objective about everything. It's like you literally cannot be. It's impossible. So it's like having this like mentality of like, you know, at least as an artist trying to convince somebody of anything is just kind of like nullifying somebody's own personal experience. So like I always try to steer away from that and just try to like give them a question that they have to answer themselves.
Dude, 100%. And that also just goes right along with, my next question about topics in regards to your writing. And not necessarily for this project, I just mean in the future. Let's say even in 2026, 2027. Are there any topics that you would like to approach creatively that you haven't yet explored within your music, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, I mean the next group of songs, I think are going to be a lot of like kind of like love song kind of driven things, but they're kind of backed by therapy to some degree. Like I've kind of like learned a lot about myself and like personal identity and stuff, and like trying to figure out like why I behave a certain way and like why like I react to certain types of people, and like I think I've learned a lot about myself like very recently, and like the past relationship I was in and the current one I'm in now, and like there's so much that like I've gathered that like I feel like there's so much to unpack because like there's easy things to talk about like when it comes to love songs, but there's like a lot more of like looking from within a lot of the time rather than just like the actions that happened. And I love like introspective stuff, and like I always wanted to figure out how to do that in like a love song context because like everybody can relate to that. Not everybody has like existential nightmares like I do, but like the and then so like that is then probably like to get to back to existentialism again probably like way later down the line. I have like a few ideas about like just like the idea of like coming to grips with the human condition of death. I think that'll probably wind up being an idea at some point. I've got like a soft idea about what it is. I don't really want to speak it into existence yet though, because then like if you talk about it, it won't happen. So
No, you've got to let it sit in there, let it brew. But all I know is I feel so secure that whenever you do dabble in it, it's going to be just as fucking genius as everything else you've done to date. So I will say that not to
Thank
put
you.
pressure. So, of
Oh, that's
course.
what. Thank you.
Of course. When can we expect this new project? For anyone that's listening who's even just discovering you for the first time, when can they expect this new album? I know in an interview you had said definitely not Valentine's Day, but I
Yeah.
don't remember seeing anywhere if there's an actual official date, and we won't hold you to it, but just to give an idea.
I'm pretty sure it's locked in for February 7th. That'll be when it's done. We got one more single in January, and then February 7th, the whole thing will drop in total. So,
Exciting. Cannot wait for you to do that. And I have one last random question before we kind of close it out in a way. I know you've never closed out an interview before, but we're recording in December for everyone listening, but this won't air until the new year. But I'm truly curious, are you going to give viewers a holiday picture this year? And I'm curious if you know what I mean by that.
dude, you are so funny. I totally had forgotten that I did that until you just said that. I will probably not be doing that again, literally in my life. But I don't even know what compelled me to do that. But that shit was so funny to me. Like I was just like, what if I just like posted this with like the dogs and I've got a Santa hat like over my dick, and like I thought that was like the funniest shit ever. And then like my like English teacher from 10th grade liked the pic, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? This is like he did not need to see me in this way. But I don't know. Like I have like a dumb sense of humor sometimes, and so like I like to have like fun with just like little shit like that. Like I've got like even stranger pictures of my phone right now too. But like I don't know. There's just like certain things I like to like let people see certain sides of me. But I think that was just kind of like a dumbass kid type post or whatever. But like I don't know, nudity's kind of funny to me. I don't know. I just thought it was like kind of hilarious with like my dogs all hanging out and shit, and then I'm just like chilling on the couch with a Santa hat on my dick. So
Dude, it was so fucking epic. And then I also saw another one where I think you were like sitting on the toilet. I'm like, I can't not bring it up. I have to bring it up.
oh, that's right. Yeah, that also. Yeah, my buddy took a Polaroid of me wearing all that shit. Yeah, yeah. That's a man. You know what? That would be kind of a fun. I mean, I'm definitely not going to do it this time around, but like I like the principle of that. I used to do like a slight tradition around like Halloween, dropping something kind of like scary or whatever. I think I only did that like 2 or 3 years, but there is something about like doing that regularly that's like kind of fun. So like I don't know, I'd like to bring back the idea of like a little Christmas card or whatever. I am thinking about dropping a demo on Christmas Day, just like some throwaway shit that I've just been sitting on for a while. Maybe I'll throw a couple of them out just for fun. But yeah, that's probably all they'll get for Christmas. So
Incredible. Well, listen, I think it'll be hilarious. And I think whether you do it or not, no pressure. I just thought it was fucking hilarious. But I also thought it was funny that you just said, like, there's humor in nudity because this, I'm telling you right now, it's just the universe is very fucking clever. This is where I got the idea from. I saw those pictures and then I remembered immediately. I don't know why, but I immediately thought, man, like in Europe, they don't care about nudity as much as people do here in America, right? And
Yeah,
I
not at all.
literally remembered it was almost like, and I've only watched this once, okay? I don't do a lot of deep dives and intensive research on artists, but I remember for some reason when I saw those pictures, you saying something about, I've never met a British person I didn't like. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so the nudity, the humor in the nudity of those photos totally inspired how we're closing out this interview. So, in honor of you saying you've never met a British person you didn't like in your best British accent, which is also funny because you talked about your Spanish accent a little bit ago. So, again, it's just clever. In the best British accent you can give us, okay? Tell everyone where they can stream your music.
All right, mate. All right, okay, cool. Here's the thing. So I lived like in Australia for a little bit, and so like I feel like sometimes I'm doing British and it goes Australian. So I'm just like, if that happens, and also my Australian's really bad too. So even though it is English, but whatever. Oh, all right. I gotta like get the cadence like. We tried to do this so many times while we were on the road with Alfie too, and like like we were trying to like chase the British accent, and my buddy could do it so much better, and like so like I feel like I wish I had Taylor here to do it with me instead. Uh, where am I streaming my music?
Just where they
Uh,
can find you on streaming and where to find you on Instagram, all that good stuff.
All right. You can find us on Instagram at Your Neighbors USA, on YouTube at Your Neighbors USA, Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you get your music, we just Your Neighbors on there. And yeah, cheers.
Dude, amazing. Thank you so fucking much for going along with everything. So awesome.
Do people come on here and have a bad attitude about shit like that? Like, cause it's so much fun.
It's funny because it's only happened to me once. This happened to me, I think, a year ago. I ended up not airing an episode because they just really wanted to ask the serious questions. And I did let their management know, like, hey, I am going to talk about the new project and we'll ask all the questions you want me to. And what's funny is I only segued off of their music for one thing. And they were like, we're not having it. I was like, fuck. But it's
No
all good.
fun.
But it's
No
funny
fun.
because out of all of them, it's only happened to me once. Everyone else, there are some serious coincidence. People really do start to think, I think they prepped for that episode. There's no prepping. So, like the coincidence about like the accent, rolling the tongue, and those little connections, truly just intuitively, I just go into them blindly. So,
Well, it's so wild that that was at the beginning of this and then called out right at the end. Like, I see why you saved it for the end. That is so wild. Yeah, that happened a few times with us
it
today.
did.
Yeah,
It happened quite a few times. So the best thing that happens is when you go into things completely open-minded and just kind of roll with it. It's how magic is made. Don't overthink it. Just go and do your thing, you know?
absolutely. Yeah, stream of consciousness. So you don't have to think really hard about anything sometimes. Just kind of just let it, flow out.
Exactly. Well, I can't wait to send you the details on when this will air, and I can't wait for people to see the magic we made. So thanks so much,
Yeah.
dude.
Mo, appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it so much, and I hope you feel better.
I appreciate you. Till next time, sir.
You got it. Take care.
See ya.
Hey, if you've made it this far, don't forget to follow the socials on the screen or in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. See you next week.